You know, every time I think of the IRS, I think of Randall Flagg, so...
Yeah.
I'm like, that's basically how I picture all of your personalities, is this dude.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to episode 129 of The Horror of Babylon, where we discuss The Wind Through the Keyhole by Stephen King, a Dark Tower novel. I'm Ryan. With me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
And Hef's here too.
Sorry. Oh, how y'all doing? Good to be here.
There we go. It's okay, buddy.
Don't die.
Thank you.
Alrighty then. And speaking of people I don't want to die, thank you to our patrons, including Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth, Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Oh, she makes it rain. And Sierra the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron.
Keyblade noises.
Keyblade noises. I haven't checked in a long time. Okay. Alright. And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at forhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And you can also go to their new store in the Village of Tree, which it was actually... they don't have as many like comic books there because in mid-world paper is pretty rare. So what Ron has been doing to stock that store is he's been chiseling what he remembers of classic Marvel comics onto ironwood slabs. They're pretty expensive. So if you really want to support him, I bring some extra cash.
You know what's funny is that sounds like something you genuinely find like on Etsy or something.
I'm sure there's probably somebody on Etsy who has like famous pages like on,
and they just like they graft them onto metal.
That might be like a cool thing like to hang on a wall.
Yeah,
I like the idea of pick your own screenshot in a movie and just like that's what they put on there.
Mm-hmm.
And just make it like one of the most absurd things. I love it.
That's pretty cool.
I like this idea.
All right, and we do want to let you know that we've decided on our summer project this year. Last summer, we went hard on Salem's Lot. The summer before, we went hard on Stephen King's It. So this summer, we're going easy. Soft.
We're soft boys.
We're doing the Summer of Goosebumps. We're going to read many different Goosebumps books, as well as do watch-alongs with classic Goosebumps episodes, and we're going to watch some of the new Goosebumps TV show on Disney Plus as well. The first episode of the Summer of Goosebumps is going to premiere on Sunday, June 16th, where we read and discuss Goosebumps Night of the Living Dummy by R.L. Stine. Daniel, have you started reading it yet?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm no dummy. It's gonna be a lot of that. So.
Alright, our history with The Wind Through the Keyhole. I never read this before, and I had no expectations about what this was going to be. I knew it was a standalone novel, but that's basically all I knew about it.
I asked Ryan what the next book was, and the the list, and
The
I
one with the
definitely-
tiger on it.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
I have no history, really. I just bought it, turned it on, and for the next 10 hours, I
Listen to the
listened to the...
smooth melodies of Stephen King's voice.
He's gotten way better at doing this.
Yeah. he has.
Like, between this and Rattlesnakes.
Oh, yeah.
I
I
did-
did way better.
I did not know when I first bought it that Stephen King did the narration. and
All of the other ones are the same person.
Yeah. This one was funny because I'm listening. I was like, this guy's weird. What is this dude or whatever? Like, and then I looked at it. Oh fuck. Okay. This explains so much. Interestingly, he sounds exactly what I expected he would sound like.
What really bothered me is the other narrator always pronounces Roland's last name as Duchesne.
Duchesne. Yeah.
And Stephen King pronounces it as Deschain.
Deschain.
And I was like, is that what it is? Because you're the author?
Yeah.
Because I don't like that as much.
Sorry, Stephen King, we're taking it from you.
You don't get to pick.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition.
I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Background: The Went Through the Keyhole is a 2012 fantasy novel by Stephen King. It takes place chronologically between Book 4, Wizard and Glass, and Book 5, Wolves of the Kala. However, it was published after the rest of the series had already been unpublished. He first mentioned it in 2009. The seventh and final Dark Tower book, The Dark Tower, was published in 2004. And it has sort of a controversial ending, and some people weren't happy about it. But so he said in an interview that he wanted to do another story with Roland, another trip back to Midworld.
I like his answer to "We didn't like your ending." Was, "Would you like some more of the middle?"
I mean, I can't really comment on that
Well,
yet.
I haven't
but-
gotten. Yeah, we're still there. I just think that's a funny response to that.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible three-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Structure and themes. We're definitely going to start on the structure because Daniel had already talked to me about it a lot. So, Daniel, I'll let you.
I missed, like, exactly one line in the book.
Where he says, I might tell you 2 stories.
And I was like, so I'm listening to the book, right? And it's Roland doing Roland stuff, you know? It's basically what I'm expecting. And then all of a sudden, like, an entire different book starts where there's this kid in the woods and his dad used to chop down trees. And I'm like, what the fudge happened to Roland? And I don't go back. I just go, it's gonna all come back together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so the Man in Black is here, so this is obviously just, like, taking place at some different point in the timeline, and it's going to tie into whatever the shapeshifter is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep... And then it finishes, and Roland's like, that's the story. And I'm like, oh. So you literally just sat there and told me another story that has direct parallels with your exact life, and you don't think this is like, suspicious at all? And that was my thought process. I missed one line, so I got lost for like 2.5 hours of the book.
Yeah, when he starts telling the Skin Man,
Yeah.
he says to Eddie and Jake and Susanna, I'm going to tell you a story, and honestly, it might turn into 2 stories. F?
I just appreciated that, much like Frankenstein, we got 3 stories deep. It's Roland telling the story about Roland, who's telling a story about
Tom.
Tom. And I was like, all right, when do we learn about the man in the shack? And he's just going to sit there and read Paradise Lost, and it's going to be great.
His name is Tim.
Yeah,
Is it not Tom?
No.
Oh. Tim Tom.
you're right. It is Tim. I have very little to say about this book, in all honesty. I like that it was kind of like The Wind Through the Keyhole,
It was very much like the
Oh,
wind through
fuck
the
me.
keyhole.
Come on.
It was staggeringly similar to the wind through the keyhole.
Guys, I'm so...
Do you mean the Wizard in Glass?
Yes. I'm so fried. I'm sorry. It's been a long
I wish
day.
I was this fried.
No, you don't.
Give me some Benadryl, Ryan.
That's why they call me Orange Joe.
I spent 10 hours doing network
that
design.
bottle right
I'm so... Oh.
This book really kind of reminded me of, and the only way I could describe it when I was like sitting there like making some notes was, this book is DLC, which I guess is kind of literally true. I want to tack on something to like the main story, and it's not like when you have DLC, you kind of have it in two categories. I can't fucking talk tonight.
Neither can
you know,
I.
you have like horse armor cosmetics that kind of irritate me, and then you have some neat little story stuff that you can go and play and have a good time with, and that's what this was. It's
horse cosmetics.
Yeah, it was one of the first DLCs. Was Oblivion added horse armor, and it was $5, and everyone lost their minds.
Oh.
But these days, it's like, no, that's just expected. We used to get mad about this because we had standards as gamers, but now people are just like, oh no, that's just the way it is now.
I have a different rant from a different perspective, but I let it be known I do agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't like it, I just don't buy it.
If you're gonna do microtransactions, make sure it doesn't affect the game. I'm just saying, but whatever.
And then you also have stuff that's like, it's already on the disc. They just lock it behind a paywall, which irritates me in a completely different way. I don't know what that would be in book form.
Went through the keyhole is a pretty good thing.
But like, you would just have pages that have invisible ink that you have to rub off with money that's transported to Stephen King.
I mean, you could do that with Kindle.
Yeah, with Kindle that would probably work.
Don't give them ideas.
Yeah. But
I thought this was. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's what it was like. It's a nice little enjoyable side story that I got a little confused on because I couldn't pay attention for a line.
I don't know. I felt it was odd to like give us a Dark Tower adjacent book with, once again, only about half of the Dark Tower story being told. And then even then, you're still not getting the Dark Tower story because you're basically still in Wizard in Glassville with young Roland and not doing tower stuff. And I don't know. This one, it's nice that it was short. I'll say that. I wasn't a huge fan of this book.
I really liked it. It's definitely in my wheelhouse. It felt, of all the books we've read, this one feels the most similar to The Eyes of the Dragon, which I really enjoyed. And the derailment felt very Conan Doyle to me. If you've never read the Sherlock Holmes novels, all of them except The Hound of the Baskervilles do the exact same thing. Where it's like Sherlock and Watson, Sherlock and Watson, Sherlock and Watson, and then it completely derails and does a super long origin story for whoever the killer is.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've only read one story, I think, of theirs, and that's what is that?
Study in Scarlet.
The Study in Scarlet.
Which does that as well.
Yeah.
I think I would have been less confused if it would have actually been an origin for the killer instead of just another story.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, I was like, I just wasn't paying attention for a line, so I got lost for a minute.
And you also, like, you told me that happens before I started the book.
Yeah.
And I also heard that line.
Yeah.
So I was definitely more prepped for it. And as we know, in our adventures in anal sex, prep is the most important step.
You know what's weird is I've actually had to have that conversation with a lot of people. Like, why would you eat ass? What if there's poop there? I'm like, well, first of all, they should wipe good, but that's not like something you do on a whim most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, butt play is not a spontaneous thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, hey, would you feel like doing that? Okay.
You make a plan.
Yeah.
You prep, you get clean, you buy lube, you do this, you do that.
Yeah, you do it on a whim, you're going to end up hurt.
Yeah. Hurt and poop on your face. Because, I mean, most people wipe really well, but generally there's a little bit down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
Skittles end up everywhere.
Yeah.
I did it on a whim.
Where were we?
Okay, so let's...
Genre.
Yeah. we've mentioned this every time, and I'm going to keep doing it. Every one of these books feels like completely unique. Like, they share characters and they share a story. But in terms of, like, the particular blend of different genres and the particular structure of the story, they all feel like completely different books.
This one's a murder mystery.
Yeah.
I would have liked it more if it would have played more into that. Mm-hmm. Like, if we would have gotten, like, some suspects or something, and maybe, like, a couple more clues. Mm-hmm. And then you could feel smart if you figured it out.
Yeah, I think it definitely spends less time on the... I don't know what, like, the page count between the two is, but I feel like the Skin Man is the shorter of the two stories.
Oh, it definitely is. It's like an hour and a half, I think, is the first part. Then it's like 2 hours and 45 minutes, 2.5 hours for...
The Wind Through the Keyhole.
And then it's like another hour and a half. So it's about even, but... Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you would have added like a little bit more of that, I probably would have enjoyed it, that part a little bit more. But that's what it's a murder mystery, and they play it like we're following the footprints. We found a witness.
Yeah.
We line up the suspects.
That was the interesting part of the book I liked.
Yeah.
Like I liked following that, and then we went into Tim's thing and the Keyhole, and I'm just sitting there being like, I've bitched about this I think a few times, where like this series keeps doing things to me where it gives me several things at once, and I have such a hard time like getting over that.
I was just expecting it to play back into the mystery somehow, and it
doesn't really.
Not directly.
Yeah, I missed the whole. If there was a moral, I completely.
I mean, it parallels like Tim's story. It kind of parallels with Roland's and with Bill's. Like it's a fairy tale. It's like, you know, one of Aesop's fables. It's something that you're supposed to learn from.
Yeah.
And I like that's I have written down under theme storytelling and metafiction, and when you're looking at like a world or a group of people culturally, something that like people often do is look at the stories that they tell to kind of learn what their values are. And this is Roland's favorite childhood story, so learning about this story helps you learn about Roland and what he values.
I guess he didn't know about the other worlds and the beams when he's heard the story before, because I was sitting there going, you don't find this a little bit suspicious?
The Dodge Dart.
Yeah.
My one started life as the gear shift of a Dodge Dart. That's America's economy car.
Yeah, like I'm sitting there going, but part of me sometimes forgets that like when we're in the past, Roland doesn't have all this information. Mm-hmm. So, of course, just something in a story is just going to be something that's in the story to him. And then, you know, you get back to future Roland, and he's like, yeah, that kind of parallels things, doesn't it?
I kind of wish, like, Eddie would have chimed in at the Dodge Dart thing and been like, not anymore, it's not. We all buy Toyotas.
Stephen King's Eddie cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because it's just not what I have been with Eddie for this entire time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different.
I mean, all of the characters are, but but especially just
there was one like random like character in the Wind Through the Keyhole that he did like a really bad accent for, and it was like cringy bad.
And then every time he does a woman,
yeah.
And again, he's gotten so like in Rattlesnakes, I think he does a great job.
Yeah, honestly, he's not a bad narrator. It's just hard to compare him to the other people we've listened to.
Yeah. And it's coming,
who are actors,
and it's coming right off of that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's the difference between reading a book and doing an audiobook.
Yep. So there's, I think a big like thing about this book is kind of world building for Midworld / Inworld / Outworld for Roland's world, and I wanted to ask you guys what do we learn about Roland's world in this book?
There are shapeshifters.
Like Zamousel, hired by Jango Fett to murder...
Roland doesn't know what a lesbian is.
No, the long stick.
Yeah. I was like, my God, dude, how old are you?
I want to say he's 16 because I think he was 15 in Wizard and Glass, and this is like within a year of that, or something like that.
Progress in this world, because they keep talking about how, like, the world has moved on, and every time I hear that phrase, and I'll be listening to something where they're talking about how they're stuck in Cowboyville, and I was like, yeah, well, you probably should move along a little bit faster, because y'all aren't really getting anywhere.
Nope.
Because everywhere, like, because Roland's supposedly how old? Like because they don't age the same way, right?
Now we have no idea how old he is.
Right.
He could be hundreds of years old.
Yeah, but like in the times that were between when Roland is in his youth versus when he's an adult, time-wise, in terms of like his physical space and his physical world, it doesn't feel like a lot has changed in that time. Like, yes, they're still moving on, but like it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of progress.
Well,
either.
I feel like the world that we see in Wizard and Glass and The Wind Through the Keyhole, or The Skin Man, it's very different to the world that we see in The Gunslinger and Little Sisters of Eloria. It's those books in that current timeline are more like post-apocalyptic. This still has like elements of society. Like there's a working train. There's still gunslingers. There's still lawmen. There's still elements of government and governance. But like when you read The Gunslinger or Little Sisters of Eloria or The Wastelands, like everything's like super lawless. There's like no resources for people. People just have what they have and they fend for themselves. So I do see a difference between Roland's world and in like these two different time periods.
I learned that they tattoo their prisoners. And all I could do was sit there and go, Yakuza. Yakuza.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's go to characters. And I've got them grouped between the two different stories. So we'll start with the characters from The Skin Man. And of course, we've got Roland. Like, do you feel like you learn anything more about Roland, or have your opinions changed at all on Roland because of this specific story?
Not really.
Also, no. I feel like he's a little bit more grown up than he was when he left, or when I last left him. Like
at the end of Wizard
and Glass, he's got a little bit more, a little bit more seniority to him, and there is a little bit of a bridge. Like I can see this is a nice bridge between Roland and Wizard and Glass versus the Roland that's more grizzled in the other books.
I feel like
he still has kind of hope in this. I think is a big thing.
I think we're seeing him recover a little bit from the shock of murdering his mother at the end of Wizard and Glass. Where I feel like we kind of learn about Roland is his feelings about his mother, because it spends a lot of time having Roland reflect on killing his mom and how he feels about his mom and his mom's adultery. And it doesn't like explicitly say that he like learns to forgive her in this, but I think he learns that it wasn't her choice, and he grows to respect her because she made the choice to go to Gilead and have him, even though she knew that he would eventually kill her. So
at the end of the book, doesn't he say he forgave her?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I might have missed it.
I think because I think he
it's one of the last lines.
Yeah, he and Susanna are talking, and she's like, did you ever forgive her or whatever like that? And he just says yes.
Okay, I missed that.
I think, yeah.
Well, so that even adds to it.
That's your point.
Yeah. Do you think that Roland treats Tim Ross as like a personal hero?
Yes.
No. Maybe I missed the point entirely. I think this story felt to me like a story of responsibility in the presence of no longer being innocent. And I feel like that's what Tim Ross's story was, and why Roland was telling the boy that story was because the boy just lost his father, and he can't, he's still grappling with it. And Roland is telling him this story not really, to me, just to make the kid feel better, but also to make him realize your innocence is kind of over now. Now comes the time where we have to be better than how we were before this incident happened, and really this is, like the story of Tim Ross is about him, realizing that he can't be innocent anymore and he has to be able to take responsibility in some way for the betterment of his future. And I think that's why, because Rollins has already had this happen to him. He's paid in some ways for his mistakes of the past. So he's telling this boy this story to try to keep him from doing the same. That's the way I took it.
Yeah, my thoughts are similar. I think the word for me, though, was courage. Mm-hmm. Like, he was trying to inspire courage into Bill.
That's a better word.
Daniel, what did you think of Jamie the Gunslinger?
I'm glad he got laid.
We all were. We were all so happy.
My thoughts were, like, I didn't dislike this character, but, like, why couldn't this have been one of the other two that are already...
I would have taken either of the other, because this guy just didn't have much to him.
His thing was that he was quiet. I don't talk.
He's quiet. He doesn't say, he's a virgin.
I thought this dude was going to be dead. Like,
I expected him to die.
I expected him to be dead by the end of this book. That was the twist of this book, was Jamie didn't die.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of existed. Like, he didn't have much of a person. Oh, he knew what lesbians were.
Yeah.
He knew what a long stick was.
I felt like he could have been like an okay addition to the rest of the Gunslinger group, but I feel like not making it Cuthbert was like a missed opportunity. Or maybe Cuthbert would have just made the Skin Man story longer, because Cuthbert has to talk constantly.
Yeah, but then it would have had some personality. Jamie just didn't.
Just say Jamie felt like he was supposed, like when this story started, it felt like Jamie was going to do something, and then it just never happened. A lot of this book to me felt a lot like that. Like there was just all these things that like you thought were going to happen, and they just don't. That's kind of one of my complaints about the book, is I just feel like it doesn't. It doesn't even try to set it up, which is, again, more my fault than anything. But when I get into a book like this, I would assume that there's going to be some kind of setup for all of this build-up, because Stephen King usually has really good payoffs. And in this, I just don't feel like we did.
Well, yeah, it's not directly related to the quest for the Dark Tower. It's just a side story.
Maybe that's to my own detriment then. I don't know. Like, I feel like there was just a lot of things that he could have done with this story to make it more impressionable, and I don't know. I was kind of unimpressed at points of this book.
I think Cuthbert would have helped a lot.
Any thoughts on young Bill?
Not a lot. I mean,
he's the
kid.
He's the kid.
He's the kid. Stephen King writes kids well.
Yeah.
He's not written poorly. Just there's not like a lot to say about him.
This kid reminds me a lot of the kid in Desperation.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same. He kind of goes through a similar, like, not exactly the same, but like there's like this moment of courage that he has to like realizes he can't just sit there and do nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It's a very nice, simple arc.
Yeah.
So
kind of already talked about Roland's mom. What about the actual Skin Man? Or
I think I already said I would have liked like a little bit more. Just like
I would like a lot more.
Just like some suspects.
Mm-hmm.
And it would give them, like, it doesn't even have to be a lot, but just, like, a little bit of personality, give it something to be a little bit impressionable.
This is one of the coolest creatures I've gotten in this entire series, and I feel like the ball was totally dropped on it. Like, I think this is actually one of the cooler things that were set up, and then it just felt like it went nowhere.
I like that it turned into a big snake.
That's why I liked it. Like, the transformation, like, the more, like, chimera aspect of everything of it. Like, it was just a cool monster, and then it just...
My mistake was not realizing how quickly the change could happen.
Oh, yeah. It was so cool.
Oh, you didn't realize this happened at instant speed, Roland.
I love the description of, like, him biting through the other guy. Like, basically just shoving his head down his throat. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm not upset with how it was, because I like the went through the keyhole section of the story more. So I was happy with the Skin Man portion of it being shorter, because... to me, it was more like a framing device for us to get to the win through the keyhole, which was the part that I was more interested in. But yeah, I liked it. I hope that another Skin Man shows up in the last 3 novels. I would like to see Eddie and Susanna, and that would be cool.
The monster itself was very cool. Like that's been one of the more cool monsters I think I've read about in these books. the fifth one kind of got me a little excited because I read a little bit of like the insert of it, and I'm just like, oh buddy, oh buddy.
I'm ready to start it, but I'm making myself wait because that's not till August. So.
I same.
Yeah.
I'm starting it because I'm not allowed to read at work anymore, so it's 26 hours long, so I have to get through it.
It's pretty long. Went through the Keyhole. Tim Ross. There was a short amount of time at the beginning of the story where I thought that Tim Ross was going to be an origin story for John Farson, where he was like, "Oh, if it weren't for Gilead, then we wouldn't have the Taxman. If we didn't have the Taxman, then everything would be fine."
I also thought, like, there was like, I had like 10 different theories going through when I was listening to this because I didn't know it was a story at first.
I thought, it's interesting you brought that up because I thought, and I don't know what triggered this for me.
Just waiting for a good man.
I thought this was going to be another life that Jake existed in.
Could be.
Just worlds on worlds.
Yeah, like that's kind of because I don't know. Like there's parts of this book that just felt so. I realize it's written after, so I'm trying not to think that way. But like there was a part of me that for a portion of that I thought this was going to be like Roland telling a story about a legend he knew, and that was somehow going to circle back to. That was Jake who, inadvertently met Merlin, who was like the opposing the flag, and like there's this whole thing. Because Jake's in this, I mean, maybe not at this point, but like in where we are at, Jake's role is still kind of unclear, but you feel like it's really, really important.
Well, let me say this.
Sure.
I don't know that this is the case, and honestly, if I had to guess, it probably isn't. But there's still 3 books we haven't read, and it's possible that
Hiya! Happy Easter!
The events and the story, the characters in the Went Through the Keyhole are relevant in one or some number of those books.
Yeah.
And everybody else who read these in release order is listening to us and like, just wait till they get to the Song of Susanna, and then they'll figure out that Tim Ross and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not... If I had to guess, I'd say probably not. I bet it's just its own contained story, but I don't know.
I would appreciate it a lot more if that is actually what happens. I would be super excited.
I like that Tim had a mystery and actually got to get some clues and then solve it.
Yeah. I really liked...
I actually thought the mystery was done better in this, like, and it was even shorter. Like, how long they spent on it. I mean, it was super obvious.
It was obvious that Kel killed his dad.
But it's still like they played up the mystery aspects and the clue aspects and the, come talk to the mysterious man. And
it's like, I was wrong about one thing when I thought that the axe, his dad's axe, was going to be in the chest. Like, I thought it would be his lucky coin and the axe, but it was just the lucky coin. I was like, he's probably keeping the axe somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious that Kel's killed his dad, and I never believed that dragon story. That's bullshit. I still think it would have been kind of cool if it turned out to be like a John Farson origin, because it spent such like a large amount of time in the first half of this story establishing how much the people of Tree hate the tax collector. What about Nell Ross?
This poor woman.
I feel really bad for this woman.
Yeah.
I feel like I might have dated this woman.
Yeah, you kind of wish that you could just do better by her.
Yeah.
Like, she's a good woman, she has a great kid, and she lost her husband, and now she marries this jerk so that they don't get turned out, and what's he do? He beats her for it.
Yeah. That was heartbreaking, like reading that, because like King sets it up very well so that it really is do this or lose everything. Yeah. And she really did she's like, this is basically the only choice I have. Between this or having nothing, at least I have this.
And it's one of those like fact things where like if she examined everything factually,
yes,
and it all like it makes sense. There's no reason not to marry him, but she just knows in the pit of her stomach that it's a bad idea.
Yeah, because I remember listening to that and like all the options she goes through in her head. I'm just like, no, she's right.
Yeah,
like everything she's saying is 100% correct, and like it would be one of those things. I mean, I know people that would do a lot more for a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it's awful to say, but it is true. Even in a fantasy story.
Dad. Daniel.
I'm dad now.
Daniel, you've been a stepdad.
Yeah.
What do you think of Kel's, his steppa? Tim's steppa.
I have
step on his face.
So I'm going to tell a little story here. I have a coworker, right, who is a stepdad.
Yeah, I think you've told me this.
Yeah. Well, there's a new one.
Oh, great.
I made a joke about, if I had the option, I'd just make sure everyone was dead but me. He's like, and he heard this joke. He goes, "Oh, can I live?" I'm like, "I guess." You have a he has a Daniel favor. I'm like, he's like, "Can my kid live?" I don't care about my stepkid, but, and I give him this look. He's like, "Well, my stepkid doesn't like me." I'm like, "Yeah, he's
no wonder."
I'm like, "Wow, dude, really?" So
I wouldn't like you either.
I don't have a lot of respect for people like that, and they instantly get under my skin.
Yeah, if you marry somebody with kids, then you got to treat those kids like your kids 100%.
And if you can't do that, okay, just
marry them.
Don't marry them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that hard. Oh, I had already gotten her pregnant. I'm like, well, that was your choice. You were dating a woman with a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell this guy. He pisses me off.
Yeah, no, that's pretty bad.
It's okay. I was kind of
pretty
pissed.
Bad.
I was kind of pissed throughout most of his portions.
You can tell that guy that I said he sucks.
I told him he was a shitty person to his face after he told me that. I'm like, I'm literally sitting here saying, I wish everyone was dead but me, but now I wish you were the only one dead. And the last person I wish to die got cancer, so watch out.
What's it like?
Stay on your good side.
What's it like to be the last M&M in the bag and not be eaten and thrown in the trash? That's you.
You melt. You just melt. Ugh.
Surrounded by garbage.
Yeah.
The Mudmen.
Best characters.
Yeah, I love these
best.
dudes.
They're really more like plant men.
The best.
I hated that I kept picturing them as racist characters.
I think being a frequent reader of a constant reader of Stephen King, it's hard not to picture that.
But like they're these jungle men who come out of the woods, who are basically plant people who are like pulling bugs out of their wounds.
That was the grossest thing ever.
And I'm like, But because I went there, I'm like, maybe I'm the racist. So
there's probably some truth in that, but
yeah, there's a low column B.
I also had a not flattering picture of them in my head.
Yeah, and they were great characters. I loved what they did. I loved how they communicated.
Yeah, they were cool.
Yeah, we were psychic this whole time, you little shit. We know what you think about our wounds.
We know you're not a gunslinger.
Dumbass.
I really liked basically everything in the forest. The dragon that he jumps on, the showdown with the creatures, and the bog water.
I hate that little fucking fairy.
Yeah, God,
I gotta find a way to phrase that doesn't sound homophobic.
I saw her small breasts.
Yeah, that. Oh wait, am I Tim? Is that the reason I chased her?
Okay, what about the widow in the veil? I forget her name, but the teacher.
The woman who was like missing half of her face.
Yeah.
She was cool. I liked her.
Why?
I love when she gets to the gun. I don't want to give you this, but you've already decided you're gonna, so here you go.
This is in contention with the Eyes of the Dragon for my favorite appearance of Randall Flagg.
I will agree with that.
If he would have been wearing a jean jacket, this would have been his best.
I like when he's sinister. Mm-hmm. Like him being sinister is much more appealing to me than him being like
the walking dude.
Yeah, I don't have a like.
I like all the setup for the walking dude.
Oh, the setup's great, but that's what makes me so mad about it.
It's like when he actually has power and can't do shit with it. That I'm kind of like.
Oh, he is nothing compared to the Red Man or the. Oh God, what's his boss called?
The Scarlet King.
The Scarlet King, yeah.
Or the Crimson King.
The Crimson King.
It's one of those.
Yeah, Crimson King sounds right.
I know that one of those is the Stephen King character, and another one is an SCP character that they just basically ripped Stephen King off of.
SCP.
Yeah, it's like an internet like horror thing.
Okay.
but they call them one of them is called
Screaming Clown Posse.
Yeah, they have a Pennywise. Don't get me started. It's just I hate this fandom.
Right.
Oh, the cloud of hands.
They have their version of the thing.
Yeah, I really like the idea that Randall Flagg, as a hobby, just is a tax
collector.
He just goes so he can turn people out.
You know, every time I think of the IRS, I think of Randall Flagg. So
yeah,
I'm like, that's basically how I picture all of your personalities. Is this dude?
And I like that he turns Tim onto the truth, not for justice, but just to fuck with Tim's life.
Yeah, just to mess with him.
This seems like a fun diversion.
Yeah.
It's just me and this sour water out here. I gotta do something to keep myself entertained.
Everybody needs a hobby.
What about the other wizard in this story, Merlin? It's definitely a unique telling of a classic character.
As soon as he became Merlin, I kept picturing him as the Disney cartoon.
Yeah.
Same.
I did too, because that's like the version of Merlin I'm most familiar with. Then I would picture the Disney Merlin transforming into a tiger and digging a hole and shitting in it.
I thought he was more interesting as the tiger.
I'll kill you all! I'll drive you crazy, and I'll kill you all! I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Scary shit. Is this book scary?
No.
Shapeshifters are scary.
I feel like, the idea that a bear just broke into my house and all I have is a knife scares the crap out of me.
Yeah. There's I think they call it, because it's shapeshifter, but like in here, what was it? A skin man, yeah.
And then you have that one girl who has
give me some skin, man.
Yeah.
Has half of her face eaten off, and it reminds me of chimp attacks, which terrify me.
Anything that's like a changeling or like has some sort of like shape-shifting capabilities. Like I think one of the more familiarized I am with one of them is called a skinwalker, which is basically the same thing. But stuff like that weirds me out, but it weirds me out in a way that like I'm very fascinated by. So monsters like that have kind of like a chimeric nature to them, where they can be anything. I think those are cool.
I think there are things that might be able to scare people. I don't think the book is written to be scary.
No, this is heavily fantasy.
It's heavily fantasy with some like murder mystery sprinkled in
murder mystery western. Yeah.
But it's not written to terrify you. I feel like Stephen King could have written this to terrify you.
Yes, with one thing, with the exception of one thing.
Oh, sorry.
The mudmen digging spiders out of themselves made me dry heave.
I don't think that's scary. I just think that's gross.
I yelled out loud. And I was like,
yeah, when he just started like fucking.
Could you believe I was eating a pack of gummy worms whenever that
I wish
happened?
I could.
Oh my God! Are you Stephen King? No, I'm Dean Koontz. Oh.
Kings and Koontz. Daniel, what is your king for The Wind Through the Keyhole? Should we do... No, let's not. Alright, just for the whole book.
for the whole book.
I was going to say, should we do one for the Skin Man and one for that? But no.
Yeah.
You know, I bounced back and forth on a couple of things, but I'm just going to go... I really... Like, all my jokes aside, it's Tim, right?
Tim Ross.
Yeah, I really liked Tim's journey in the middle of the book. Because he actually got, like... Again, he got to solve the mystery, which is kind of what I was wanting from the other part of the book. So I'm going to go with that. Like, he got to not only solve the mystery, but, like, avenge his father. I just kind of like that little kind of journey.
Yeah.
It's short, simple, super obvious, but I still enjoy it. So
yeah, it doesn't
have to be big brain for it to be good.
Yeah.
My king is the Skin Man story.
Right.
Like I like that whole thing, and that's probably the thing I like the most in the book, was that little arc.
Oh, my king is also Tim, The Wind Through the Keyhole, just the whole story. Honestly, like, sometimes when we drive up to New Hampshire, we do, like, audiobooks as a family, and I thought, like, wow, I could just put on just this part, just the wind through the keyhole. Skip the Skin Man stuff, and just put on the wind through the keyhole for the 4 of us. And honestly, I think everybody would love it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. And Daniel, your Koontz.
That I got confused. That's not the story's fault, but it did kind of like... Because it, like, me missing a single line and not realizing that I was in a story within a story and expecting more changed how I was viewing the story. And that's where a lot of, like, my enjoyment got impeded. So my Koontz is me.
Makes sense.
My Koontz is that this book proved me wrong about my review through Wizard and Glass. Because I believe what I said is in Wizard and Glass is the biggest thing I didn't like about it was how you had kind of like 3 stories going on, like, but the one was providing longer, and I was just like, it would probably be more enjoyable for me if it was shorter. I was wrong.
Need a little bit more.
And I got exactly what I asked for in this one, and I found I was like, I still didn't really enjoy it much more than I did Wizard and Glass. Unfortunate.
We're our own Koontzes tonight.
Yeah, my own expectations.
I don't have like a big, glaringly obvious Koontz. Kind of wish it would have been Cuthbert instead of Jamie. I thought it was weird that the storm didn't have a bigger effect on the village of Tree.
Yeah, I can see that.
I hope I'm wrong about this whole book and that somehow this comes back in a circle later that we didn't expect.
It very well may.
If it does, I will read this again.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this, and maybe that's what I'm hoping for, is like maybe there's just a lot of subtle nuances that because we haven't gotten there yet that maybe I didn't pick up on this time around. Because to me it just kind of felt like, here's some extra stuff. I'm like, what?
Actually,
I didn't ask for
I have
extra.
a new king. My king is the TikTok man didn't show up again.
Yes.
Oh, that is a good king.
That's everybody.
That's everybody's king.
Yes, everybody wins in that one.
Hopefully he's dead forever. All right. Rankings. Hef, you're up first. Have you read The Little Sisters of Valoria?
No.
Okay.
Then still number 1, baby.
I really need to just read that out of spite.
I hope he never reads it.
I think it actually goes right... Yeah, it goes below Wizard and Glass.
Your new number 16, above the Bone Farm and below Wizard and Glass.
At least Wizard and Glass, like, I felt like I was a part of, like, in some portions, an epic tale.
Mm-hmm.
This one kind of just left me, like I said, just... Tim's story is the exception. I liked Tim's fairy tale story. But the rest of it just... I'm real torn on this book, because I really liked parts of both of them, but they both irked me for very different reasons.
Hef can just live without DLC.
Yeah, that's right. I do for the most part.
Yeah. I get addicted, so I try to wait for Game of the Year editions or, like, bundles. So I end up playing games, like, 2 years when they're out of a trend.
Most of the games I play don't have DLC. Well, they're either... Never mind, we don't need to talk about this. All right, so I have it at number 13, which is below the Drawing of the Three and above the Gunslinger.
Okay, where did I put Wizard and Glass? 25?
Number 25.
I'm going to put it right between Wizard and Glass and the Gunslinger, because I like the Gunslinger a little bit more.
So it's your new number 25, under the Gunslinger, above Wizard and Glass. And again, if you want to take a look at our rankings, just go to the show notes, and there's a link to our Google Drive. You can check out how we rank all the books we read and the movies we watch and so on and so forth.
Yada yada.
Homework. If you were stuck under a sheet overnight with Merlin the Tiger, how would you put the moves on the most famous of wizards?
That's a lie. The most famous of wizards is Harry Potter.
If we're still talking about Harry Potter in 200 years, then sure.
Muggles are a thing, man.
What's up, my muggles?
What's up, my muggles?
Okay, so I'm gonna lean in close. I need to make sure I'm the big spoon though. Mm-hmm. So I need to make sure I'm hugging it so I can whisper in its ear. Mm-hmm. And I'm just gonna go, have you heard the tale of Carol Baskins? And then I will just tell the tiger the tale of Tiger King.
I didn't know who Carol Baskins was.
She's framed as the villain in Tiger King.
I was like, is she the founder of Baskins and Robbins? Because
No,
you can get me into bed that way.
She's framed as the villain in Tiger King. And then I would just tell her the tale of Tiger King and Joe Exotic, and the tiger would be all up in me. Because I assume it's a male tiger, and I cannot beat the big spoon after that.
So, mine is very similar, but I whisper something different. Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Champawat, the Tiger the Wise?
He was a man-eater. Is it possible to eat this many people?
And then
Not
I'd
as
say,
a human.
Merlin, your stripes are very slimming. Can I play with your cat punch? Sheldon lets me play with his cat punch.
I fucking love the cat punch. Look at you overweight house cat. That's how all the cats see in the window. They go, "Oh, look at that house cat."
I would just cover myself in Tarama Salada and say, "You don't need a key for this hole."
God damn it. This is better.
Alright, for further reading, the two for me are The Eyes of the Dragon and The Talisman. Talisman is another one of Stephen King's fantasy novels, but the premise of The Talisman is also about a young boy who has to go on a quest to save his mother. So, I feel also has
Tom Cullen?
Yeah, Tom Cullen the werewolf.
I really need to read that.
I want to read this just.
It's actually kind of a slow book, but the highs are good enough that I think it's worth reading. Plus, they go see The Lord of the Rings in theater.
The Easter egg of Easter eggs.
The Ralph Bakshi, the 1978 animated Lord of the Rings.
Our Easter egg section and our further reading section will be Ryan talking about Lord of the Rings for an hour.
Yeah, I love that. That movie is so sweet. Any other recommendations for people who liked The Wind Through the Keyhole?
I think those are the two big ones.
Cool. All right, upcoming on the Horror of Babylon next week, we're reading more Stephen King because we are gluttons for punishment, especially with this story. Daniel and I cry as we review Rattlesnakes by Stephen King. It was so rough. And then the next Sunday, June 16th, the Summer of Goosebumps kicks off with Night of the Living Dummy by R.L. Stine. And then our next two bonus episodes, both sponsored by Horsemen Comics and Gaming, they chose these movies because they are subscribed to our Losers Club tier on Patreon. The first two Thursdays in June, we are reviewing An American Werewolf in London, one of the greatest horror films ever made, and An American Werewolf in Paris, another horror film that was made.
But you know who else has it made? Our patrons.
Thank you to Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben, the Fourth Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Oh, she makes it rain. And thank you to Sierra the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. Only half. Alright, that was good.
Not bad.
And thank you to Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall at Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at forhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com. And if you make it into the store, say hello to the proprietor, Ronald the Kells, the Steppa of Christmas. He's starring in his new movie. It's the newest edition of the Stepfather franchise. It's simply called Steppa.
The Stepfather franchise.
It's an actual franchise.
No.
It's a slasher movie franchise.
About a stepdad that kills people.
Loosely based on a true story.
Is it the same guy?
It's loosely based on
movies?
Daniel's life.
Yeah.
I have not seen any of them.
Is it the same guy throughout the whole movies?
It's supposed to be.
That's wild. You'd think somebody would
I think
get
there's
that.
only 2 or 3 of them, but there it is.
He just state hops, like marrying women and murdering them.
Yeah, because that's what the dude did.
Oh, it's based on a thing?
Yeah, it was loosely based on a true story.
There are 3.
Yeah, so it's a trilogy.
Yeah, it's a trilogy.
The first one's kind of good. I mean, I like it.
It's about to be rebooted with Ronald Grampus as the Steppa.
I think he'd do a good job.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for reading the Went Through the Keyhole and recording with me.
Every time.
Yes. Every time.
Thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
Stay scary, folks.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher, and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the horrorofbabylon@gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/thehorrorofbabylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.